Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Performance Pathways, sponsored by the NoCast app. I'm your host, Court Whitman, and if you enjoy this podcast, please consider learning a bit more about me and how I serve others at my website, courtwhitman.com. Hey, for all new listeners that are checking with us today for the first time, because I know that you know the guest that we have on this show, Jason Van Camp, let me give you just a quick overview of why this podcast exists. So, High Performance Pathways is a purpose-built and specially selected collection of someone's experience as they discuss how they understand, discover, and chase high performance in their life. This content is collected during a one-on-one interview and then shared with you. Why? Because I believe deep in my heart that everyone has a different path to high performance. And hearing about the paths that other professionals have journeyed along is informative and it's inspiring. So during each episode of High Performance Pathways, as your host, it's my intent to do 5 things for you on this show. Number 1, I'm going to connect you to someone else so that you can reach out and build out your professional relationships. Number 2, I'm going to question so that you can understand the perspectives of my guest. Number 3, I'm going to share my thoughts on what the guest is sharing so that I can increase a perspective in that moment. Number 4, I'm going to teach to increase your competence. And number 5, together with my guest, we're going to inspire. My hope is that I'm inspiring every listener with this show to trigger some sort of a growth experience during the show or as you walk away from it. Hey, one additional note as you continue listening today. This podcast is raw, meaning there's no post-production editing. We record live and we deliver it to you exactly as it was recorded. Now, my guest, give me a chance here to rattle off some of this man's bio, and then we'll get rolling here with the interview. My guest today is Jason Van Camp, or as his close friends affectionately call him, JVC. Jason is what Malcolm Gladwell would refer to as an outlier, an exceptional person who is successful, not just because of his personal accomplishments, but his will to win, and unique ability and willingness to unlock the potential of others. And Jason, I know you're on here, man, and I don't even know, but it's so interesting here because the mission statement for my company, Court Whitman, Inspiring High Performance, is this: to unlock hidden potential and develop competency so you can achieve incredible results. So, hey, man, we got some great alignment here on kind of what we want to do, or probably had been doing for a long time in our life. A little bit more about Jason here as y'all settle in with us together. Jason's also passionate about his experience and his stories, and they resonate with a number of different audiences: students, athletes, folks in business. And he just wants folks to kind of agree with him, to get on board with him. Folks that connect with him are, and I quote, passionate about passion, end quote. JVC is a Green Beret, a decorated one to that end. He's a Ranger. He's a U.S. Army retiree, just like myself, world traveler, loyal friend, and Jason has mastered the art of storytelling that reflect many of his own life adventures. Jason also earned an MBA from BYU and is honored to be the founder and chairman of a company of his called Mission 60, as well as service as the executive director of Warrior Rising. Jason's married to his wife, Elizabeth, and enjoys traveling, history of the Roman Empire, study of religion, playing and getting dirty with his dogs, martial arts, and supporting professional sports teams and helping veterans in his work. Jason, thanks so much, my friend, for being on the show today to sharing some perspectives with our listeners about just your experience as a college athlete, your experience in the military as an Army Ranger, as a Special Forces Green Beret, the work you settled into after your service in the military, and really, man, just in general, in my opinion, your life's work chasing high performance. So JVC, thanks for being here, man.
Well, Corey, that's one hell of an introduction. Thanks for having me. I think most of that stuff is true. Maybe not all of it. It's uncomfortable for me to hear you take 20 minutes out of the start of the podcast to read that bio, man.
Yeah, I get it, man. I mean, we swim in similar waters. It's cultures of organizations where humility is at the forefront of anything that we step into. And I appreciate you letting me share it, man, because what I can tell you is the listeners want to hear it, brother. I mean, that this is the only reason this show exists. It is sure as hell ain't because of me. It's because of guests like you that give us a gift in their time, that allow themselves to step into storytelling, allow themselves to step into perspective, and that's nourishment, man, for anybody that listens to my show. So hey, man, this is purpose built. I'm a deliberate guy. People know that, but there's nobody else we'd rather have with us today to feature on the show. So I am incredibly grateful for you checking in. And I know you're busy and I know you're humble. But I want to get rolling here, if I may, partner, just
Yes,
settling in with the
sir.
audience. No doubt. My audience want to know, I mean, what people think, people want to identify with the person on the show. And so what we're talking about here is fit, right? How can we begin to establish fit and alignment with the listeners, with the guests that we have today? And I think the best place to go to is childhood, man. Give us some insight. I just talked about your adult career for the most part. But would you share with us just for a moment, man, some earliest memories of childhood in your home? And specifically in that reflection, did you have a role model, a mentor, or someone you aspired to imitate at a young age?
Yeah, Court, man, that's a great question. I think the first memory I have, I was probably 2.5 years old, and that was my earliest memory.
Mm.
My parents bought me one of those. It's like the precursor to the big wheel, like for small kids. It was a blue and yellow trike, plastic, and I
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
You
I had
remember
one, brother.
you
I
had
had
that?
one.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I mean, these kids these days don't, because I got a kid, and them jokers 9 and 11, and he wants anything that's got a motor that plugs in. But I'm with you. Continue, please.
Who doesn't want anything with a motor that plugs in, man? Right? So I remember my dad. He put me on this trike, and he tried to get me to pedal, but my legs were too short, and so he duct taped blocks to my shoes and tried to get me to pedal, and it still wasn't working. I wasn't getting the coordination down. I didn't really. I remember I was totally confused. Like that's the feeling that I had at the time, and and then my mother came in, and my dad duct taped my shoes around the pedals. So I had shoes on, blocks on my shoes, and now I was stuck to these pedals. And I was like trying to move. And I was sort of like panicking. I didn't know what to do. And I remember I was crying because it was very uncomfortable. And I remember my mom and dad just laughing at me, just thinking it was the funniest thing they've ever seen in their lives. And me thinking, I'm in a miserable spot. Please, somebody save me. You know what I mean? And that's the first memory I have. It's sort of like a deliberate discomfort memory.
No
And
doubt.
growing up, I had a fantastic family. I love my mom and my dad. They had a lot of health issues growing up. My dad had a pretty severe heart attack when he was like 39. You know, he pulled through. They gave him the last rites and everything, and the doctors told me and my brother and sister to go in and say goodbye to him for the last time. And the year after that, he had a brain aneurysm, kind of the same deal, like somehow miraculously pulled through. Unfortunately, my mother, she was dealt some tough cards in life. She developed terminal lung cancer when she was 39 years old, and fought that for a while until she passed away. And and they were fantastic. They loved me, and I know they did. They taught me right from wrong. They wanted me to be successful. I was telling a story. I put it on LinkedIn today about my mother. In honor of Mother's Day, sort of on
Absolutely.
Sunday. Um, but my next door neighbor, Brian, he was my best friend, and growing up in elementary school and everything. Sometimes my dad would pick us up from school. We lived a couple miles away. Most of the time, we'd walk with my dad every now and again to pick us up, and he'd drive back home, pull the car into the driveway, and my friend Brian would get out and just walk to his house. Now, whenever my mother picked us up from school, she would drive us home. She would drive us into Brian's driveway, our next door neighbor's driveway, and drop him off, pull out of the driveway, back up, move into our driveway, go into the garage, And I always noticed that. And one day I just asked my mother, I said, why do you do that? Like, why don't you just let him out at our house? And she kind of told me, like, you can be average in life or you can do a little bit more and be successful. And that kind of stuck with me in my life, just doing that little extra bit that may be uncomfortable for you, that may not make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? To a lot of people, but it's appreciated and it's noticed. And if it's not, you're noticing it yourself and you're building up strength, mental points, and discomfort points. You're building up calluses so you can be stronger.
Yeah, man. What an incredible reflection. And what I'm hearing from you here is the birthplace of who you grew to be. Good gracious, man, your mind's like a steel trap. I guarantee I can recall nothing probably below the age of 8. And so going back to the
Jeez,
big
that's a
wheels.
problem, Court. You block it all out.
Maybe I did, man. But here's what I was thinking when you're talking about your dad. And good gracious, shout out to dads. Shout out to moms, man. Shout out to moms and dads. Shout out to the family. Shout out to anybody that's intentionally looking to put someone in an uncomfortable position because you care about them and you want them to grow. Because when you went through the story of your father, I thought about me as my dad, me as a dad with my son, Bryce, years ago, just throwing his butt into the pool. I guarantee that fool was uncomfortable in that moment, but just the introduction to swimming for the first time and how uncomfortable that was. But what growth occurred in that moment that we don't even know yet, just like you at 2.5 riding the big wheel from that moment. I guarantee, because my son at 9 years old is a confident kid that's rough and tough. I think just the way I kind of approach that has an impact. And you're telling me it's having an impact on you as well. The other thing that I heard in you, and this shout out to your mother and the way that she led and the way that she influenced, because for me, leadership is simply influence. It was, hey, you can be average or you can be incredible. And in my mind, what's resonating for me is a word that you use often: optimal performance. I say high performance, but I think we're talking the same thing. So thank you so much, Jason, for that sharing out, man. Let's fast forward, partner. Let's fast forward to college, the military academy specifically, and your decision to play football there. Quick sidebar, man. My dad went to West Point. My dad played linebacker, number 54, was the captain of the defense. I didn't get my shit together quick enough to get a chance to get to that great institution. So I went to VMI and I played linebacker there at VMI. So we got some things in common there too, man. But just curious, man, why'd you decide to go to play for Army football? And could you maybe share a memory or two with us on that experience?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm happy to hear them talk with another linebacker, man. We've got that same sort of mentality. I think it's been internalized, ingrained in you when you're young playing linebacker, being a leader of the defense and tough-minded and hard-hitting and the whole thing. I played football growing up, 7th grade on. I loved it. I was good at it. And I thought I was going to go play for the Washington Redskins one day, man. I'm from the
Yeah, you
Washington,
did.
D.C. area. That's where I'm from. And the Redskins were good when I was growing up. They're not so much anymore, but they were really good when I was growing up. And that was my dream. That was my vision. Like I was going to go play in the NFL. I was going to go play with the Washington Redskins. I'm going to go play linebacker. And I believed it, man. I really did. And going through high school, I became captain of the football team and, got some accolades, for different things, you play for in high school. And we almost went to the state championship my junior year. And, I was really on top of the world. Football was everything to me. That was my identity,
Absolutely,
and
man.
you know what I mean? And unfortunately, when my senior year, when recruiters started coming to see me, I thought, I was going to get recruited by Florida State, and Miami and all these teams, and what it came down to was like, I wasn't getting recruited by them at all, man. Like I got a few letters in the mail, but then all of a sudden, like these Division I AA schools started coming around and, some of these Division I schools that had, like Army and Maryland and Air Force Academy and Navy and those type of schools.
Sure.
And I realized, I was like, man, like somebody just told me straight truth to my face that they're like, listen, man, you're a 190-pound middle linebacker. You're 6'1", and that's not going to make it at these big time schools.
Absolutely.
I was pretty fast. I was like a 4.6 guy, which isn't blazing fast, but it was pretty good. And I just lived in the weight room, and I felt like hard work could get you anywhere. And really, that was the first time in my life that I realized that, hard work can't get you everywhere. Sometimes, the opportunities you need to make, you need to figure out another way to get those opportunities.
Sure.
And so I got recruited to play at West Point, and the recruiter there, Greg Gregory, he was my recruiter. He went hard in the paint on for me, man. He came to my house and had dinner with my family, and he was just really persistent. And I thought he was a nice guy, and went up for a visit to West Point, an official visit. Hated it. It was a terrible visit. And then I was taking my time trying to decide which college I wanted to go to, and the offers weren't many, and ultimately I saw how happy it made my parents to think about me going to West Point. And I kind of thought about it more and more, and I just I prayed about it. I didn't get an answer. I was just kind of like, man, what should I do? I don't know. And finally, the recruiter came to my house, and he kind of gave me an ultimatum. He's like, Jason, like it's now or never. You got to tell me, like, are you coming or not? Because if you aren't, then I got to move on. I got to recruit some other guys. And I said yes, I'll go. And my parents were happy, and I was like, we'll see how it goes. I'll be excited about it and so forth. Went up to West Point. First day, I was like, man, this is a piece of cake. You kidding me? Like, getting hazed and the freshmen and this whole thing. And then I saw that it was kind of a weird, like, kind of schism between football players and the rest of the Corps of Cadets.
Absolutely.
It was
I
sort of like
know this well. Yeah, man.
they don't get along or something. It was kind of like in high school when you play football or a sport, people look at you differently, like, oh, like you're going above and beyond, and maybe you're a little bit better. I think some people would think that. I don't hope I'd never acted that way, but I think there's a little bit more respect that's given to people that, in that position. And at West Point was kind of the opposite. It was kind of like,
Sure.
oh, you're a football player? Well, you're a piece of shit. It's like, well, I've been here a day, man. You don't even know me. Like, why am I? I thought, it would be cool to play football at West Point. And so it was kind of a weird deal where they made me feel unwelcome, really, in a way, and I hated it, man. I hated every second of going to West Point. It was miserable for me. The only saving grace was kind of my Army football brothers, and knowing that was a real team, that was a real brotherhood, and so forth. But it was a difficult experience for me. I didn't enjoy it at all. And so I hear guys saying, hey, it was the best 4 years of my life. And I'm like, man, not for me, man. It was the worst 4 years of my life. And it's odd because I went to, Ranger school and the qualification course and a number of different courses in the military that were very difficult. And I enjoyed them. I really did. I enjoyed the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the working hard, the competition. I enjoyed all that. And there were times when it was very tough. It was very difficult during these courses. And I would just remind myself, I'd say, well, you know what? Like, you can get through this. Like, at least you're not at West Point. I honestly would say that to myself. And that would kind of help me to keep moving forward.
Yeah, man, I see myself as you reflect on your story in some common ground there. I wasn't recruited to play football. I walked on, and let me tell you what it's like showing up at a program like a military college when you're injected to this rite of passage. I think for y'all, maybe beast or something like that is what you call it. I don't know. Ours is the rat line, and you got to go try out for the football team, but you've already been on campus. And so the stigma that you get is, oh, here's another shitbag athlete that thinks he's special. He's actually just trying to get over by not being participatory and all this other stuff that we got to do. Like practice is easy, right? Like Scout Team D is easy, right? So yeah, I would say, yeah, man, people would ask me, what's the best thing about being at VMI? And I'd always say the rear view mirror.
Yeah. it's a great place to be from, but not a great place to be at. That's what they say about West Point.
Boom. Mic drop. I feel the same way, man. I want to talk a little bit more, if I may, as we continue here about one of the things you did while you were there at West Point, and it was a 2-year LDS Mormon mission trip to Russia. I'm just really interested, man, in a little bit of just insight you might be able to share about this. And let me just say that I've had some incredible friends from the Church of Latter-day Saints. So I just want to shout out to Tyler and Crystal Birmingham that just relocated from Bragg to Seattle, and their incredible daughters that are close friends of mine. I mean, this woman was sending me Christmas gifts from Seattle just because we had a friendship with their family when they PCS'd. I'm thinking about a guy I went through the Q course with, Dan Alder, and Chris O'Gwen. And I think Chris is probably still serving last time I checked, surely at the battalion level or maybe even group level these days. And so, man, I'm just so moved by someone that decides to do this and an age in your life where I would still consider it to be pretty young, man. So would you mind just giving me some insight and the listeners some insight? What do you learn when you do something like
Yeah,
that,
well,
man?
well, first, I think I know some of those people, so we can talk about that offline. So that's pretty cool. Small world, you know.
It is the world of the Green Berets, brother. It's small, man. It's small, and I think our year groups are pretty well aligned. I graduated in '99. I think you may have as well. But yeah, continue, man, please.
Yeah, I was originally a 99 guy, and then I left for 2 years and came back and graduated in '01. So, um, my journey is kind of interesting. I didn't grow up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My grandmother was a member, and and her ancestry and obviously my ancestry, we had some sort of pioneer Mormons in our bloodline, right? And that kind of fell off along the way. And my grandmother joined the church in her I wouldn't say in her old age, I guess in her middle age, and she tried to convince her family, her daughters, and her son and her husband, my grandfather, to join the church, and really nobody was interested, and she was really bummed about that. And then flash forward, I'm 8 years old, I'm in third grade. Grandma shows up at school unannounced, unexpectedly, and she takes me out of school and takes me to her house, and she lets me play in the backyard and climb trees, and she bakes all sorts of cookies. And man, this is awesome. Like, I get out of school at lunch and go hang out with grandma, and she adores me. This is great. And this happens for about a week. And the next week, and I don't tell my parents, and the next week, she brings some Mormon missionaries over to her house, and they sort of teach me about the church, and one thing leads to another. And they ask me if I want to join the church. And, I'm 8 years old. I like what I hear. Things feel good. I'm hanging out with grandma, and so I say yes. And I go down the process of getting baptized and becoming a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And around that time is when my grandmother finally told my parents what she's been doing. And they were furious about this. But they decided to support me. And so, I got baptized into the church. The missionary baptized me and started attending church services on Sunday. My parents would take me to church, drop me off, come pick me back up by myself. And then eventually they started going to church to kind of support me and see what it's all about. And one thing led to the next, and they got baptized and joined the church. And then,
Wow.
my brother and sister did as well, because I'm the oldest in the family. So that's kind of how it started with me. It started with my grandmother kind of kidnapping me out of school, and doing this. And then it was sort of ingrained in me to go serve a mission at a young age. And when you're a male in the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, they kind of, try to put an emphasis on duty and service, and you need to do this, and, sort of thing. And so I always looked forward to it. I always thought it would be an incredible experience. And so you turn in some paperwork, essentially, your packet, and you wait a few months, and then you get something back in the mail. At least at the time, it was sent in the mail. And it tells you where you've been selected to go serve for the next 2 years of your life. And I was honored and blessed and surprised to find out that I was going to serve in St. Petersburg, Russia. And so
Wow.
that was, shortly after the fall of communism. I mean, 10 years after, essentially, is when, less than 10 years. And I didn't speak Russian, didn't really know about the culture. Or, I knew where it was on the map. You know what I mean? I knew that the USSR was our enemy, especially in the 1980s growing up,
Sure.
in Washington, D.C., we knew they were the bad guys. And I got a chance to go over there, and I loved it. It was awesome. 2 years living essentially on your own, trying to figure things out in a foreign language, in a foreign country where you don't even speak the language, and you're trying to proselytize religion on people. I mean, you're talking about learning how to become determined and resourceful and loyal. And, you're learning how to communicate, in different cultures. You're learning about, so many different things that were so impactful for me at such a young age. And it was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, man, I got to be honest. It sounds a little bit like foreign internal defense as a special forces Green Beret, my man.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, I don't know that those words wouldn't be ones we'd find in a narrative about someone that just came back from Colombia, right? Or from somewhere out there in the Middle East or Africa. So I think that's awesome, dude. Thanks for sharing that story. And if I may just continue here, let's just stay on this theme of service, not in support of the church in this moment, but your military career. I mean, in the intro, I talked about it. You mentioned it earlier. You're Ranger qualified. You're a Special Forces Green Beret. I got a tons of folks that listen to the show because they want to do that too with their life. And in this opportunity, it'd be crazy for me not to ask, what inspired you to walk down those two paths? And if you would, could you maybe just differentiate for the listener, right? And there's a lot of folks in there that don't know the difference between sergeant and major, right? But at a level you think would make sense, what's different between a way a ranger's trained and how they're, put into action to do their mission, and how would that be different from maybe what a Green Beret does in the mission that they're called to do for our country? Would you mind, JVC, just commenting on that question and taking it anywhere you want? What inspired you to do that work and walk down that path, and how do those two kind of career fields, because I know very well how they're different, but most listeners don't, man. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I get that question a lot, and I try to keep it simple for the audience and not get too technical and use military jargon and everything. I say this, like, joining the Army and going into the infantry, it's almost like graduating from high school, and becoming a Ranger, it's like going to college and getting your bachelor's, and becoming a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL, it's sort of like getting your master's. And then going to one of the top tier, like Delta Force, that's like in your doctorate, and that's how I explain it to folks that don't understand. What's the difference between a Ranger and a Green Beret? When people ask me that question, I say, Rangers are door kickers, and we've been trained to kick in doors and move in and, shoot bad guys in the face. And Green Berets, well, we're trained to go into a foreign country, speak a foreign language, train up indigenous forces in our tactics, and then have them go in these buildings, kick the doors in for us, and then we follow in after them as advisors and mentors and guys that oversee the operations. So that's how I describe it to people, and it usually makes a lot of sense. And obviously there's a lot of questions that come from that, especially with guys from the military that are like, well, there's more to it than that. Yeah, there is, but do you really want to get into it with guys that don't know what CQB means? When you have to explain what all the jargon means and all the technical, things that we do. And as far as like my experiences, why I did what I did, like I said, West Point was a very difficult time for me, and I didn't enjoy it. So when I got to the military, I said to myself, if the military is anything like West Point, I'm out. I'm out as soon as I possibly can. I'm going to do something different. But I wanted to give it a shot. And I quickly found out that the Army, at least for me, wasn't anything like my West Point experience. It was amazing. I loved it, and I loved the camaraderie, and I loved the people, and it was just it was awesome. And one of my good friends, Andy Reese, he, during our OBC, convinced me to go to pre-Ranger PT, or pre-Ranger physical training. So you wake up in the morning and you do about 2.5 hours of just soul-crushing physical activity, runs mostly, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, like things like that, just to destroy you. And at the end of every PT session, you repeat the Ranger Creed, all 6 stanzas of the Ranger Creed, without mistake, and then you go to class until 5 p.m. And so I didn't know if I wanted to do this. I didn't know if I had what it took. I was kind of indifferent about it all. Andy was really fired up. He really wanted to do it. And we played football together at West Point, and he was like, come on, man, let's do it together tomorrow morning. I'll see you out there at 4:30. Like, let's get after it. And I was like, oh man, like if you're going to do this, and I have to do this. And so I show up the next morning at 4:30 with 100 other guys, 100 plus other guys in our course that want to try out for Ranger School. And of those 100 plus guys, not one of them was named Andy Reese.
No way.
Yeah. I was like, where the hell is this guy? What happened? Like, I was pissed, man. And, we got our souls crushed for 2.5 hours. I go back to the barracks and I bang on his door. I'm like, hey, dude, where are you at? Like, what happened? He's like, oh, bro, 4:00 came so early, man. Like, I just couldn't get out of bed. And I was like, you're kidding me, man. Like, now I'm stuck doing this. I'm not going to quit. Like, I've got another 4 months of this PT every single day. He's like, yeah, man, sorry. And he just like shut the door on me. And I was just like, all right. So I continued doing it. And the 100 plus guys got whittled down to 12 guys. And of those 12 guys, I think 9 went to Ranger School. And of those 9, 3 graduated, me being one of them. And I just learned a lot about myself at Ranger School. Like I said, I loved it. It was an amazing experience. And it kind of opened my eyes to just being tougher and just embracing and loving the military a lot more, which is something I did not have at West Point. And after my first combat deployment and seeing how the Special Forces guys operate and how much respect they get and how much training they get, and and the fact that they speak a foreign language, and I was already a fluent Russian speaker, I thought that would be a good fit for me. And so I went to the selection, loved it, my favorite course in the military, and then I went to the Q course, and I loved every second of it.
Absolutely, man. And I know exactly how this story continues with assignment to 10th Special Forces Group. And for anybody listening, there's 5 active duty Special Forces groups that serves our Army, 10th Group being one of them, which is regional specialty and area is there in Europe, which is a great fit for where and really the history that Jason has. So, man, you're right. You're a great good for it. And I know Andy Reese. I've interviewed Andy. He's been on this show. He's talked about you. We talked about your book and the way you guys collaborated there for that book, Deliberate Discomfort, how U.S. Special Operation Forces overcome fear and dare to win by getting uncomfortable. And I just want to open, because I got a signed copy from your boy, Andy, right here on my desk, man. And I just want to share with you because it makes me laugh a little bit. It says this, and I'm quoting, "Hey, Court, I know you can relate to the content of this book on many levels. I hope there is some additional nuggets that can make you better at improving your mind, body, spirit, and craft." And he ends his kind of signature block with, "See you in the arena, Andy Reese." And I'm laughing to myself as, brother, you missed the damn arena with JVC back in the day.
Oh, you should tell him that.
I will.
Out of it.
Dude, he'll listen to this. And the other thing that I'd say that I'm thinking about Andy's slick head right now. Someone stole his hair, and JVC, you've got that super sweet flow still going. So
I certainly do.
So anyway, man, it's just interesting. Sometimes as a conversation and a past begins to collide here on this show. So, hey, man, I want to continue in this moment, if I could, and step a bit out of your military time. And although I believe that what I'm about to open up with here next certainly is applicable to when you were in the service, but I want to talk about a way in which you kind of define your philosophy. It might be a leadership philosophy, although you didn't use that word. It might be a managerial philosophy, although you didn't use that word either. Hell, it might be a life philosophy, and you didn't use that word either. You just called it a philosophy. And it includes really 3 lines of effort as I read this: servant leadership, the art of determination, and the power of storytelling. And so I'm just curious, man. I hear some of these words a lot, like servant leadership. never really heard the art of determination so eloquently put. And I do a lot of work around storytelling. But I'm curious, man. This is for you, your show, your perspective, your gifts to the audience. Would you mind just sharing with the listeners, man? How do you define servant leadership? And what the heck is the art of determination?
Yeah, no, that's all great questions and all things I've thought about before in the past. I think when people say servant leadership, you're saying the same thing. Like being a leader is influencing other people, and it's being a servant. It's serving other people. It's putting their needs above your own. That's what I believe. And I've never been happier in my life than when I've been serving other people. You know, it's
Amen.
during,
Amen.
you know what I mean? Like during my mission, I was serving other people. I was so happy. You know, during my military service, serving other people, and that feeling that you're helping other people. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, you joined the military because you want to kill people. No, you know, not at all. I wanted to help people. You know, and the motto of the Green Berets is "De oppresso liber," to liberate the oppressed. You know, to free people from oppression, to help people, to be their savior. That was really appealing to me, you
Sure.
know? And I felt like, especially when I was younger, and I think most people, you know, probably most people feel like they took more than they gave. You know, they were takers instead of givers. I really feel that way about myself when I was younger. And I sort of feel like I owe it to give back now, to you know, to serve other people, to help us however I can. And oddly enough, like by doing that, you find that you're happy. You're happier than you've ever been. So it's everybody wins when you're doing that. I find that, you know, I'm selfish about being selfless. And I've been saying a lot lately. Um, you know, the art of determination, man, like the way that I look at it is like this. Like when I went to the Q course, let's say even when I went to Ranger School, you know, I said, I'm graduating. I'm going to be a Ranger. There's no two ways about it. There's no discussion. There's no way possible that I'm not going to be. I control my fate, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this is a reality. And if it's not, then you better be pulling me out of this course in a body bag because I'm going to be dead. You know what I mean? And having that mentality on certain things in life has really produced success, resulted in success for me. You know, just being absolutely determined, like no matter what, like just driving forward. You know, it's been something that I admire in other people when I see them just as determined. It's really powerful, and it's inspiring to me. And so I try to be determined as well. Storytelling, you know, I've noticed that you could have the most incredible experiences that anybody's ever had, but if you have a hard time telling these experiences, sharing these stories, then what's the point? You know what I mean? So you really have to be a good storyteller and really to influence and impact other people and to make a point. So I've really tried hard to become a better storyteller so that people can understand me and kind of feel my energy and passion. And those three things that you mentioned, that's what's important to me. And that's what I think my values are founded in.
Absolutely, man. And if I could just do an attempt of recounting what you said here for the listener, when you talk servant leadership, you're specifically talking about being selfish, about being selfless. When you talk about what the art of determination is for you, and I don't think you use these words, but these are the words that resonated within me as a listener. It's just an approach to hard work and effort. And when you talk about why a story is so important, is because it's the most casualty producing weapon that we have in our adult life as human beings that are engaged with others, is the ability to tell a story, man. And it's compelling. So thank you so much for sharing that. Want to move on here in this moment, and if I may, selfishly, JVC, you know, I'm a professional leadership coach. I coach in and around what I call transition. And I think life is a constant state of transition. Life is a constant state of evolution. And a lot of the clients that I serve find themselves in a transition moment. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about the challenges that you experienced in transition out of the Army and into the work that you do today as an author, as the founder of Mission 60, and then as the executive director for Warrior Rising. And if you don't mind talking a little bit about those companies, that would be incredible in your response, like mission, vision, and how you're serving in those two capacities. And then I would love to just talk about the book, but I'll have a different question for that after that. So I don't want to overload you. I'm bad for that in the questions I ask. So let me just
Ah,
summarize here, brother. Um, would you please consider just talking about challenges that you felt in transition and how you moved through those and how those led to Mission 60 and Warrior Rising and how your work in those organizations serves others? Does that work, man? Does that question work for you?
yeah, and I don't recommend that people follow my path because it's a deliberately uncomfortable path that I chose. Um, like I ask myself the same question that we all ask ourselves when we leave the military. Now what? What am I going to do with myself? And I looked around at people getting jobs, and it wasn't appealing to me. Like I didn't want to get a job, working for someone again, because there were some great leaders I worked for that were just incredible, and then there were some terrible ones that just like made life, miserable. And my mother always used to tell me when I was younger, she said, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." And I looked around at what my friends were doing, and a lot of them were business owners. They had started their own businesses, and they were very successful. And quite frankly, a lot of them were making millions of dollars. And I thought, well, hell, I've known this guy for 10, 15 years, and if this guy can do it, I know certainly I can do it, you know. And so I thought, if I were to start a business, what would I do? And I thought about what I was passionate about and what I was good at. And I said, well, it's, West Point and, military and Ranger and Green Beret and like leading men and teams. And like, that's really what I've done for the last 20 years of my life. Like, I know a lot about that, I suppose. And then,
Sure.
and I thought, what am I passionate about? And I said, well, in my off time, what do I do? I like sports. I like watching football and baseball, and all sports, but mainly those two. And I thought, I'm also passionate about people and like the guys on my team and my brothers and sisters and people that I've worked for that I thought were the most incredible leaders I've ever met. Guys on my team that I thought were the most incredible leaders I've ever met. My peers, my friends that I thought, if we could somehow get everybody together in a room and my children can kind of soak up, even just through osmosis, like the essence, like who they are as people. My kids would grow up and they'd be very influential, powerful, strong, independent people. And I got together with a lot of these people and I said, I've got an idea to start a business. It's a leadership development business, and we'll take our experiences in the military and so forth to clients. And we started targeting NFL teams. And I was lucky enough to get a chance to present to the New York Jets. And we landed the Jets as our first client ever, and we worked with them for the entire season. And that was unusual. I don't think that's, you know, not too many people can say their first client was an NFL team, but we were lucky enough to do that. And we started growing the business from there. And it was, obviously when you don't know what you're doing and you're kind of trying to figure things out, like it's hard, it's a lot of,
Sure.
sleepless nights and a lot of grinding, a lot of figuring things out, a lot of arguing with your team and a lot of different opinions and, just normal stuff that helps you grow and become a stronger, more powerful person in life. And, like that's kind of how Mission 60 started. And then Warrior Rising, I, we were training the Oakland Raiders, and after the event was over, me and my guys, a number of the people on my team, some of them, most of them at the time, my instructors were wounded veterans,
Sure.
Rangers, Marines, and Green Berets, guys, amputees, and guys like that. And I bring them back out to be on a team because it's powerful for the client to hear their stories about overcoming adversity and resiliency, and it's cathartic for them.
Hmm.
And we were just talking after this event was over about life, and I was an officer, so it's kind of been ingrained in me to make sure the guys are taken care of. So I just asked them, how was everything going? And they were kind of sharing their experiences with me. And then, we get a large disability check from the government, and there's charities that take us hunting and fishing. And, there's a charity that built a home for me, a handicap accessible home. $500,000 home. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Guys, I'm glad to see that you're getting taken care of and people care about you. And I could tell that something was off and things were quiet and guys were like, it's not awesome, Jay. And I'm like, well, it sounds pretty good, man. Like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, we go hunting and fishing, we have a good time, but we come back home and nothing's changed for us. As a matter of fact, it's often worse because we'd rather be hunting and fishing.
Mm.
Like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? And the other guys like, I resent living in this home that somebody paid for and constructed for me. I didn't put any skin in the game. I did nothing that I think I did to earn this home, and I didn't, pay for this home by myself, and I'm not proud of it. And as a matter of fact, I don't like even being in my house. So I spend most of my time sitting outside on my front porch smoking weed all day. And that's not me, man. And I said, hey, what are you going to do about it? And they said, well, Jason, it comes down to purpose. We had a purpose in the military. Now we don't. How'd you find your purpose? And I thought, wow, man, it's a powerful question. Not sure if anybody's ever asked me that before. I guess starting a business is my purpose. Whether or not it succeeds or fails is on my shoulders. And I get a chance to be creative. I get a chance to make money for my company, for myself, for my team, and we get to add value to the clients. This is my purpose, creativity. And guys were like, we want to have that same purpose too. And I said, well, what do you mean? They said, we want to start businesses. And so that was the genesis for Warrior Rising. I decided to start a nonprofit that helps veterans. To me, in the most altruistic way I know how is to help them help themselves. To give them that tough love, to help them earn their future and help the economy, help the country again, serve the country again through business ownership. And so that's what Warrior Rising does. And we've been around for about 5 years. Helped 1,016 veterans start businesses last year. We raised almost $1 million last year. This year, we're hoping to raise twice as much. And that's kind of how it started.
Love it, man. And I had the opportunity to meet Ken Venera. I think I'm getting his last name right. I know he's on your board with Warrior Rising. So again, another small circle of how we intersect. Where does someone learn more about Mission 60 or Warrior Rising that's listening right now, Jay?
Yeah, you can go to warriorrising.org to learn more about our mission with our nonprofit Warrior Rising. So 501c3. Last year, 82.4% of every dollar we earned went back to the veterans, which we're really proud about. And then you can go to mission60.com to learn about our for-profit leadership development company. And our philosophy there is deliberate discomfort. It's about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And of course, our book, like you mentioned, came out a few weeks ago, 2.5 months ago, actually. We've sold 17,400 copies, which is great. Amazon #1 bestseller. Getting a lot of great reviews. It's fantastic. Really excited about it. And, you can go to Amazon to buy the book, or you go to veteran owned and operated 9line Apparel to buy the book with a t-shirt and a bundle package. And that's kind of how you can get the book. Our ebook is launching on May 24th, and our audio book will be out on June 9th. So really exciting things.
Yeah, man, no doubt. I got the book here. I got my own autographed copy. Y'all can't have one of those. But hey, man, check that stuff out. I'll hang all those websites, all the information on the data of this episode when it's published. My man, I think just one more question for you, if I may.
Of course, Court. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me on. This has been a lot of fun. We can go a little bit longer too. I got some time.
Okay. I want to be sensitive to that, but I think what I want to do in this moment is hit on. Well, since you let me, I'm gonna go 2 more questions, my man, if I may. The first is just, I'd be crazy not to get a little bit more of your insight, your perspective, your thoughts in and around what is near and dear to my heart, which is the ability to inspire high performance in others. And so it's crystal clear that you've been a high performer in your life and will very likely continue to do that. And so I'm just curious, man, a lot of people listen to this show with a deep interest and curiosity of, well, how does that happen in your life? Right. And so we're talking about habits here in this moment. So would you maybe share with us 1, 2, heck, 5, if you got them, habits that you have as part of your way of doing things that enable you to achieve, in your words, optimal performance?
That's a great question. And I'll answer it like this. So a lot of people that we work with, players, in various professional sports and managers, C-suite level executives, they say, Jason, I want you to motivate me. And I'm like, hey man, there's one thing you got to understand is I can't motivate you. All I can do is inspire you to motivate yourself, because I'm
Boom.
not going to be here 24/7. You are, and you're going to have to figure it out on your own. I always love the tough love, giving guys tough love, and that is what inspired my deliberate discomfort revolution. You know, um, what that looks like is as far as like habits in other people. Some people will tell you, wake up at 3:30 so you can be at the gym at 4 a.m. and work. Okay, well, listen, I wake up at 3:30 and I go to the gym at 4 a.m. and I work out, and it's not hard for me, right? For other people, it would be hard. It's sort of nostalgic for me because I did that so often in my military career.
Sure.
Whether in training or overseas or what have you, like just waking up early, oftentimes that early, and just working out. So it's something I'm used to because I've experienced with it. Some people will tell you, make your bed first thing in the morning. Well, shit, I went to West Point and we had to do that every single morning, without fail. Is that hard for me? No, it's not. For other people, it would be very difficult. Some people will tell you, hey, take a cold shower in the morning. Well, I lived in Russia, and in Russia, they turn off the hot water in April and they don't turn it back on until October, and so that's not hard for me to take a cold shower, but it is for some people. So what I'm saying is find out what's hard for you. Is running a marathon hard for you? Well, maybe you ran 4 marathons this year already and it's not a big deal. Well, then go run an ultra marathon. Is running 5K hard for you? Well, maybe, you haven't run in 20 years, and the best you can do in your physical condition is to walk around the track once. Well, then 5K is a hard thing to do and you should do it. You have to define what is hard for you, what your discomfort level is. And our mindset, our revolution, our philosophy is all about helping you to get comfortable with that uncomfortable. And so you can continue to move forward and grow and improve and become stronger. My mother told me, and I said this earlier in the show, like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So surround yourself with high performing people, become friends with them, and they'll motivate you, because they'll be there consistently, to help you to move forward and do things in a more productive way, to be a high performer. You need to have a team that you know and that you trust that will have your six, that'll have your back at all times, because you're going to have those moments of weakness, and eventually those moments of weakness will become moments of strength. And then you should seek new moments of weakness. The way I look at it is, people will tell you this, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what I'll tell you is, if it ain't broke, break it and make it better. And I'll leave you with that, Court.
I love it, man. Two themes I'm hearing from you when you reflect upon your ability to perform at a high level and a way in which you might counsel, mentor, coach, train, instruct, teach, heck, others to do the same. There's two things. There's this habit of do what's hard, run towards it. Let that be habitual in your life. And a way in which you talk about that is deliberate discomfort. And I got a story about that I want to share here in a moment. But the second thing you talked about is surround yourself with incredible people that can inspire you. So coming from JVC, coming from Jay, coming from Jason Van Camp in this moment, optimal performance for him and the folks he surrounds himself with come from those kind of two habits. Quick sidebar, man. I had an opportunity to go to a Human Performance Summit at Legend at Soldier Field in Chicago about 3 years ago. I was working as a leadership coach for a tech company out of Durham, North Carolina called Teamworks. The president sent me out to this, and there was all these, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback coach. There was the coaching staff for Seattle Seahawks. There were folks from the movies there. There were folks from people there were esport coaches. Like, just think of Fortnite. My kids play Fortnite. It's popular. I don't know if the listeners identify what that is, but all these people that had in their professional life incredible training to at some point perform. Actor, dancer, video gamer. And I was asking everybody, what do you do to build trust among teams rapidly? Because my president of my company sent me to do this because he was growing his C-suite and wanted me to do that for the company as their leadership coach. And no one had good ideas, man. Nobody. We have a barbecue and we get together, we do this. So I finally ran into a catcher for the Cubs and he said, you know what, man? The best thing we ever did is we brought in some special forces dudes and they ran us through some shit that sucked. And at the end of that, we celebrated that. And I look back on my career as being a football player and being the guy subject to the same training that you have. And the recipe that I've landed on, and you can find this on my website, Jay, long before you even talked about this, deliberate discomfort followed by celebration or a celebratory event of that discomfort experience will build trust rapidly with teams. And so I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I want people to buy the book. There's so much in there for folks that they could understand from this idea of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for allowing me to marinate on that just for a moment and share kind of some of my perspective on it. And I hope that makes a difference for folks that are listening.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, man. Last thing I want to talk about, man, I want to close out with family, which is one of the most important things in my life. That inspires the hell out of me. When I think about, and a lot of my friends ask me this, hey, Court, how do you want to be remembered? And there's two things that show up for me in that moment. I want to be thought of a man that's faithful to my God, faithful to my family, faithful to my friends. I just want to be faithful, man. And that's damn hard, but that's a commitment I've made to myself. And the second thing is I want to build legacy. And my legacy, as I've come into this awareness, and I will say that it wasn't like this my whole life. So for so much it was, hey, Court, tell me about yourself. I'm a football player. I'm an athlete. I'm a special forces commando. But really, I'm a Christian. I'm a dad, and my legacy is my kids. And so I got a question for you here, my friend, and it's about just you and Elizabeth, man, and Team Van Camp and what you're creating there, man. As I understand it, you got some kids. One probably is not even crawling yet. One's probably running around bumping into things. But, could you just comment on it for a moment, what you've learned as your life has matured into this domain of dad?
Oh, that's a great question. What have I learned as I've matured into a dad? I love my family so much. My wife is fantastic. I'm so happy I married her. 5 years in, it's been awesome. My daughter is 3 years old. I love her to death. She's so much like me. It's hysterical.
What's her name? Make that
Jane.
come alive, man. Make me come alive. Claire Jane?
Yeah, Claire Jane is my daughter. She's 3 years
Freaking
old.
love it, man. My little girl, Charlotte, she's 11. Continue.
That's great, man. That's great. And, we call her Officer Claire sometimes because she likes to be in charge. And,
Yeah.
She's not a great sleeper right now. She's never been a great sleeper.
Oh, don't worry, bro. That's not going to
11
leave.
months old. His name's, oh, geez, I hope she figures it out sooner than later. I don't mind it so much, but it drives my wife nuts. She gets crazy because our daughter, stumbles in our room several times in the middle of the night. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Jay, I'm stepping all over you, but just because it resonates so much with me, my little girl still climbs into the bed, buddy. So continue.
Oh, wow, man. So it never ends, huh? But that's okay. I don't really mind it so much. My like I said, my wife does, but my son is 11 months old. His name's Jack. He's a crack up. He's got a great sense of humor. And he's a great sleeper. I mean, we were blessed with him. Like he goes down at like 7 o'clock and doesn't wake up till 7 o'clock the next day. So he's a stud, man. And it's just interesting to see how different like your daughter and your son kind of look at you. I don't know. That doesn't probably make sense to anyone listening unless you've actually experienced it. And I didn't realize how hard it was to be a dad and be a father. They're like, I was thinking about it today. This may sound ridiculous, but, there are times when I drive my car and I don't put my seatbelt on, I just don't do it. I just don't feel like doing it. And ever since my kids were born, I was like, man, like what if something were to happen to me and they wouldn't have a dad? Like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. So, it's kind of inspired me to be a better person and to, do things like putting your seatbelt on, or, taking care of yourself a little bit better, or saving more money so they can go to college one day. Like, just little things that you wouldn't have considered before, or weren't as important to you before. And now they are, and, gosh, it's just family is everything. It's just so powerful, really. And it's how you leave your legacy behind. Like, I hope I impact lives through Mission 60 and Warrior Rising. But at the end of the day, my legacy is with my family, with my kids. And if I could be known as a great husband and a great father, mission accomplished. I could care less if I was a best-selling author or successful businessman or made millions of dollars, or I don't care. It's all cool. It's all nice to have. It's all fun to try to go for that. But, as long as my kids love me and respect me, and they know that I love them, it's all worth it.
Amen, man. Appreciate the reflection, and means a lot to me. I think there's probably nobody listening to this show right now that doesn't identify with how that feels. Even if you don't have kids yet, even if you never want kids, you're a kid to somebody, and that means something to you in that moment. So thanks for sharing, brother. I think that's a wrap for the show, boss. I just want to close out here in the way that we always do. It's important to me. It gives us some energy as we break the guests out, and we break the listeners out and back into their day. And so I call it the high performance breakdown, and it goes like this. I'm going to speak the words breakdown on 3, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. When you hear the word 3, Jay, that's your invitation, alone and unafraid, because I'm going to shut up, to give us 3 claps, followed by the spoken words, boom, shakalaka. And I challenge you to do that without smiling in some way. And then, man, you can leave us with any comments you want as you close out, although nothing is required. Any questions, my friend?
I think I got it. Hopefully I won't screw it up for you.
You won't, man. You're back in the football huddle, brother, breaking us out. So, breaking us out on this episode of season 2, my man, my brother in arms, Jason Van Camp, JVC. Jay, break down on 3, boss. 1, 2, 3.
Boom, shakalaka. Everybody listening out there, I want you to voluntarily, intentionally, deliberately choose discomfort.
Absolutely, man, because it matters. Choose discomfort and see what it does for you in your life. And pick up Jason's book, or if you want to learn more about the work that he's doing, visit these websites, and you can connect with him on LinkedIn at Jason Van Camp, or you can go to Mission 60, that's spelled MISSION, the number 60.com, and warriorrising.org. You know it, if you're listening, that you can find this episode and more episodes of High Performance Pathways at my website or anywhere you're consuming your podcasts. Now get out there, everybody. Consider what Jason shared with us together today. Allow it to inspire you, and continue to chase high performance in your own life. Till next week, y'all. We'll see you. Be good. Later.